Henyard says she is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI.
A shocking turn of events has gripped Thornton Township in Dalton as Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who also serves as township supervisor and has notoriously dubbed herself the super mayor, was arrested by federal agents earlier today. This dramatic development follows years of controversy, including accusations of corruption, reckless leadership, and public stunts that have divided the community and drawn widespread attention. For months, rumors of an FBI investigation into Henyard had swirled, fueled by allegations of misconduct, misuse of power, and questionable decisions. While many speculated about potential legal issues, few anticipated that the situation would escalate so suddenly. Henyard's arrest marks the culmination of years of increasing scrutiny, mounting evidence, and growing public concern over her actions as a leader. The news has left Dalton and Thornton Township in disbelief, shaking a community already divided by her bold and often contentious leadership style. Critics who have long decried her actions as self-serving and reckless are now feeling vindicated, viewing the arrest as confirmation of their claims. In contrast, Henyard's loyal supporters are scrambling to make sense of the situation, defending her as a misunderstood and ambitious leader who has been unfairly targeted by political adversaries. Henyard's tenure has been marked by controversies, including accusations of excessive spending on personal luxuries and the appointment of an unqualified police chief. Despite facing repeated criticism, she maintained a defiant public image, often dismissing her critics as politically motivated, while positioning herself as a trailblazer who was unfairly opposed. The arrest now shifts the narrative from political drama to a legal reckoning, casting her leadership in a new, troubling light. The community is left reeling, grappling with mixed emotions, shock, anger, sadness, and uncertainty over the implications of this dramatic turn of events. For many of Henyard's detractors, this moment is seen as justice served. For her supporters, it is a politically charged attack on a leader who refused to adhere to traditional rules. The arrest has thrust both Dalton and Thornton Township into a leadership crisis, leaving residents wondering what will happen next. With the fate of their controversial leader uncertain, the future of both communities hangs in the balance. Henyard's once defiant image as the super mayor now faces a significant redefinition, with her legacy potentially tainted by legal consequences.
At 6, embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is mounting a re-election bid. Henyard made the announcement in a
To understand the dramatic downfall of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, we must rewind and examine the chain of events that led to her arrest. From the moment she took office, Henyard's tenure as mayor of Dalton and Thornton Township supervisor was marked by controversy. Her leadership, often described as audacious and unapologetic, quickly gained notoriety, with allegations of corruption, misuse of taxpayer funds, and abuse of power emerging as recurring themes. Reports of extravagant spending, ranging from luxury travel and lavish events to questionable personal expenses, sparked outrage among residents, who accused her of putting her own interests above public service. Her decisions, such as appointing unqualified individuals to key positions, further eroded public trust and amplified calls for accountability. Throughout it all, Henyard maintained a defiant stance, dismissing criticism as politically motivated and positioning herself as a trailblazer unfairly targeted by her opponents. However, the allegations continued to grow louder, leading to an FBI investigation that had quietly been building for months, if not years. The investigation examined a wide range of accusations, including financial misconduct, mismanagement of township resources, and possible backroom deals, raising serious doubts about Henyard's ethical standards. Public meetings became battlegrounds, with heated exchanges between Henyard and trustees, reflecting the deep divisions within the community. Supporters praised her boldness, while critics saw her actions as reckless and self-serving, fueling a political storm that consumed the township. Ultimately, the audacious moves that once defined her leadership became the very issues that led to her undoing. Henyard's arrest by federal agents marked the shocking climax of a saga that had gripped Dalton and Thornton Township for years. Her downfall serves as a cautionary tale of how unchecked ambition, without accountability and transparency, can lead to chaos and collapse. For the community, this moment represents a reckoning, as they reflect on the turbulent legacy of a leader whose rise and fall have left a lasting mark on the township's history.
Until 2025, yet Tiffany Henyard has officially decided she wants to stay as mayor despite the cloud of controversy.
The arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, also the Thornton Township supervisor and self-proclaimed supermayor, unfolded early this morning at her Dalton home, marking a pivotal moment in a saga that has gripped the south suburbs. Federal agents descended on the property in a dramatic turn of events, with witnesses noting the presence of her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, who has faced controversies of his own. Woods reportedly watched as Henyard was led into custody, capping years of swirling allegations and a mounting federal investigation into her administration. While the exact charges remain under wraps, sources suggest they include embezzlement, misuse of public funds, and obstruction of justice related to her handling of Dalton and Thornton Township's finances. To understand the gravity of Henyard's arrest, one must reflect on the long trail of controversies that have followed her since she assumed office in 2012. From the outset, her leadership was defined by a bold, larger-than-life persona. Henyard was not content with merely being the mayor or township supervisor. She branded herself the Super Mayor title she proudly displayed on banners, billboards, and social media posts. Her face became ubiquitous across Dalton and Thornton Township, appearing on promotional materials, event flyers, and even village welcome signs. While supporters viewed her as a dynamic and approachable leader, critics accused her of self-aggrandizement, using public resources to promote her image rather than serve the community. Henyard, however, dismissed these accusations with characteristic confidence, often declaring herself the people's mayor and the people's supervisor. Her charisma and public presence drew both admiration and skepticism, as her tenure grew increasingly defined by controversies that extended far beyond her branding. Allegations of financial misconduct began to surface early in her term, including lavish spending on personal luxuries and questionable allocation of public funds. This fueled growing criticism and public distrust, especially as Henyard's ambitious and defiant style put her at odds with trustees and community members. Heated board meetings became a hallmark of her administration, often reflecting the deep divides within the township. The federal probe that ultimately led to her arrest had been quietly building for months, investigating potential misuse of township and Dalton funds, as well as her role in obstructing oversight and accountability efforts. Henyard's leadership, which once defined her as a bold and unflinching figure, became increasingly marred by financial controversies and a combative relationship with other officials. The investigation pointed to significant concerns about her stewardship of taxpayer money, which became a focal point for critics demanding greater transparency and accountability. One of the most shocking allegations was an astonishing $43,000 shopping spree on Amazon in a single day, reportedly charged to village accounts. This spending spree included high-end furniture and various other unexplained expenses, leaving residents and critics alike stunned. These purchases were seen as emblematic of Henyard's extravagant lifestyle, fueled by public funds. This was not an isolated incident. Additional allegations of luxury travel and personal indulgences, funded by taxpayers, emerged over time. This growing pattern of financial mismanagement fueled widespread outrage and raised serious questions about Henyard's leadership priorities. Amid these controversies, one of the most contentious projects during her administration was the infamous skating rink summer club, which was said to minimize sex slaves in case of police harassment, which is a $2 million endeavor that many residents believed was built without proper approval or adequate transparency. The rink, which critics argued was more of a vanity project than a true community asset, was only open during events hosted by Henyard herself. This fueled accusations that the rink served her personal ambitions rather than the needs of the community. Critics viewed the rink as a glaring example of Henyard's alleged misuse of taxpayer money to fund projects that elevated her public persona, often prioritizing her image over the practical governance of Dalton. Supporters, however, defended the initiative, arguing that Henyard's intent was to improve the community by bringing amenities and recreational opportunities to residents. They maintained that her bold approach to governance was misunderstood by those who opposed her vision. Despite these defenses, the financial controversies and accusations of reckless spending cast a shadow over her leadership, sowing distrust among residents and drawing scrutiny from auditors and watchdog groups. As more details of her spending came to light, the community's dissatisfaction grew. Board meetings became increasingly heated, with trustees and residents demanding answers and greater accountability. The allegations of unchecked spending, along with the perception that public funds were being diverted for personal or vanity projects, became central to the growing criticism of her administration. While Henyard's defenders continued to highlight her charisma and vision for community improvement, her detractors pointed to the mounting evidence of financial mismanagement as a reflection of deeper issues within her leadership. The culmination of these financial scandals, combined with Henyard's defiant responses to critics, created an environment ripe for further scrutiny. Her combative relationship with local officials and trustees only fueled the sense that her leadership was unsustainable. This set the stage for the federal investigation that would ultimately lead to her arrest, marking a dramatic fall for a leader who had once been celebrated for her audacity and ambition. Her arrest represents the culmination of years of mounting tension, with the south suburbs now left to reckon with the fallout of Henyard's dramatic downfall.
The arrest has sent shockwaves through Dalton, Thornton Township, and the broader region, leaving residents to grapple with the implications of the charges and Henyard's legacy. For some, it represents a moment of vindication, proof that the long-standing allegations against her were not baseless. For others, it is the tragic end to a leader who promised to break barriers and connect with her constituents, but ultimately became a symbol of unchecked ambition and the dangers of a lack of accountability.
As the details of the federal investigation unfold, the community is left to reflect on Henyard's rise and fall. Her tenure will likely be remembered not just for the audacity of her leadership, but for the financial mismanagement and personal indulgence that marred her time in office. The ongoing federal probe will determine whether Henyard will face criminal charges, but the damage to her reputation is already done. Her fall from grace serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the importance of transparency in leadership, and the lasting impact of financial mismanagement on a community's trust in its leaders.
Prevented Supervisor Tiffany Henyard from filing a vacancy on the board. So what is going on and why the
Tiffany Henyard's leadership style, as contentious as her spending habits, became a hallmark of her administration, deepening divisions and raising eyebrows from the outset. Her tenure was marked by frequent clashes with the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, which set the tone for a turbulent period in local governance. Meetings often descended into shouting matches, with trustees accusing Henyard of overstepping her authority. In retaliation, she accused them of sabotage and obstruction. One particularly chaotic meeting saw Henyard storm out after being heckled by both residents and trustees, shouting, "You all should be ashamed of yourselves," before leaving the room. These moments painted a picture of a leader who saw herself as under siege, battling not only her critics, but the entire political establishment. Her combative approach extended far beyond boardrooms and became a defining feature of her public persona. Henyard frequently took to social media, airing grievances and targeting opponents through fiery Facebook Live broadcasts. In these online tirades, she would call out critics by name, accusing them of jealousy, personal grudges, and working to undermine her leadership. In one particularly inflammatory broadcast, she labeled her detractors as enemies of progress and ominously vowed to expose every single one of them. These tirades drew mixed reactions. Supporters rallied behind her boldness, praising her for confronting her opponents head-on, while critics questioned her professionalism and the appropriateness of using public platforms for personal attacks. Some residents also voiced concerns about potential retaliation, alleging that Henyard weaponized her influence to silence dissent. Claims emerged that she used lawsuits, public shaming, and even township resources to target those who challenged her authority. Whether these claims were proven or not, they added to an atmosphere of tension and mistrust, where opposition was often met with fierce and personal responses. While Henyard's defenders framed her actions as the efforts of a passionate leader fighting for progress against relentless obstruction, her detractors argued that her leadership style was divisive, unprofessional, and ultimately damaging to the community. The escalating conflict, both in public meetings and on social media, became emblematic of an administration defined more by its controversies than its achievements, leaving Dalton and Thornton Township deeply polarized and struggling to cope with the turmoil created by Henyard's combative governance.
The meeting wrapped up early because two trustees, as you mentioned, did not show up, Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle. Without them, not enough board members were present to make official.
Claims that Mayor Tiffany Henyard had begun alienating important allies within her own administration added fuel to the fire surrounding her leadership. Over time, a number of former supporters, including trustees who had once backed her initiatives, turned against her. They accused Henyard of concentrating power at the expense of openness and cooperation. Her former assistant, Carmen Carlisle, became a vocal critic, alleging that Henyard routinely disregarded established protocols to push her own agenda. Carlisle claimed that Henyard operated with a "my way or the highway" mentality, and in a recent interview she expressed that Henyard's actions further alienated those around her, fostering a climate of mistrust and disorder. According to Carlisle, these internal divisions only widened the gap between Henyard and the board, contributing to a growing sense of disillusionment. The tension reached a boiling point as Henyard's trustees were accused of avoiding board approval for crucial decisions, including the hiring of key executives. One such controversial decision was Henyard's appointment of Ronald Burge as head of Dalton's police department. Burge, whose state certification was allegedly inactive at the time, was accused of being unqualified for the position. The trustees argued that Henyard's unilateral decision to appoint him was illegal, but a judge ruled that Burge could serve in an interim capacity. This appointment exacerbated tensions between Henyard's administration and the township, with some residents and business owners coming forward to claim they had been targeted by her office. One business owner alleged that his company was shut down for refusing to donate to Henyard's campaign, while another claimed that Henyard used the Dalton Police Department as her personal enforcement squad to harass opponents and critics. Even her former assistant, Carmen Carlisle, who had once been one of Henyard's closest allies, turned against her, calling herself a whistleblower. Carlisle accused Henyard of running the township like her personal fiefdom. The betrayal of Carlisle, a trusted confidant, was particularly damaging to Henyard's image. However, perhaps the most startling charges came from trustees who accused Henyard of falsifying checks and hiding financial data to circumvent board authorization. Once thought to have a healthy surplus, the township was revealed to be millions of dollars in debt. A preliminary financial report conducted by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who had been hired to investigate the township's finances, painted a grim picture of financial mismanagement and a lack of oversight. Henyard dismissed the report as a political hit piece, accusing her critics of jealousy and hatred. In one particularly memorable Facebook Live video, Henyard addressed her critics directly, calling them prejudiced and vowing to fight back. "When I sue everyone, I'm coming for defaming my name, defaming my character, and this conspiracy to destroy Tiffany Henyard. I will come for everyone." Despite mounting controversies, Henyard remained defiant, frequently holding public events like turkey giveaways and holiday parties, using these occasions to defend her record and rally her supporters. However, while she focused on social media self-defense, federal investigators quietly began their probe earlier this year, questioning witnesses and reviewing financial data from both Dalton and Thornton Township. As the FBI built its case, the investigation expanded to include Henyard's political committee and charity, with investigators looking into allegations of money laundering and the misuse of public funds. The arrest of one of Henyard's top allies earlier in the year was seen as a turning point, with many speculating that he had agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency. As news of Henyard's arrest spread, the community reacted swiftly and with divided emotions. Supporters expressed shock and disbelief, with some accusing the FBI of targeting Henyard simply because she was a young black woman in a position of power. One supporter argued that, despite the public outcry, the arrest had been long overdue, adding that Henyard had been running this town like her own personal kingdom for years. Well, what does Henyard's arrest mean for the future of Dalton and Thornton Township? With the mayor now in federal custody, there is a sense of uncertainty about the political landscape. Some residents and trustees are calling for new leadership, while others are concerned about the long-term damage to the community's reputation. "We need to rebuild trust and restore integrity to our local government," one trustee said, reflecting the sentiment that the scandal will take time to overcome. As the dust settles, it's clear that Henyard's fall from grace will have lasting effects on the region, leaving the community to grapple with the consequences of a leader whose audacity and ambition ultimately led to her undoing.